Sometimes within a 90-minute session, I have to do another 5-minute takeoff because my energy levels are drained. So I either take time off to recover, or if I think that it's just procrastination, I say, okay, for 5 minutes, just push. And very often that 5 minutes starts an upward spiral. Not through the mind, not through the heart, through action. The 5-minute takeoff, probably the most useful technique for overcoming procrastination. Just do it, in other words. Reward yourself. You know, businesses are built... Can you imagine a business without a reward? Well, think about the Self Inc. You're a certain business. You want to motivate yourself. So reward yourself. Okay, I'm going to do 3 hours of work now, and then allow myself a 3-hour meal in the dining hall as a reward. Or I'm going to really work hard on Friday so that Saturday I can go out. That's okay. You know, we do it in every other place. But no, again, we say, no, I need to be inspired for this problem set. Yes, sometimes, but sometimes we're not that inspired. And rewards are certainly legit and important. Go public. Throw your knapsack over the wall. Tell people what you're going to achieve. This is exactly what I did in 1995 when I first decided to teach workshops in psychology. I was working in Singapore at the time. I called up my boss, Mr. Hugh Hong, and I said to him, Hugh, I want to teach a workshop, or 2-day workshops, one on leadership, one on the pursuit of excellence, on success. And he said, that's great. I think it will really help the employees. When do you want to do it by? I said, July 1. This was January of 2005. And he said, fine. Put down the phone. I called him. I was here at the time. I called him up. And as soon as I put down the phone, I said, oh, shoot. What have I just done? One of the best things that I ever did. Because I went public with it. I threw my knapsack over the wall, and I had to start working, whether I liked it or not. And that helped me overcome procrastination, because I knew that I wanted to teach at some point, but when I went public with it, in a sense, it forced me to do it. And I gave a workshop. It wasn't the best workshop in July of 1995, but I did it, and I worked extremely hard toward it. The team approach. The best predictor, for example, of maintaining an exercise regime is doing it with other people. Now, this is not right for everyone. Some people, exercise is something that they want to do by themselves, just with their Discman or just by themselves at home. And that's okay. However, for most people, doing it with other people actually helps. It also helps to write down. This is a commitment. Write down goals, divide and conquer, break down achievement. Remember Langer's research? Write these things down. Make lists. They actually help most people. And finally, permission to recreate. What that means is that give yourself permission to be human. Give yourself permission to procrastinate at times as well. Give yourself permission to recover. You're not a machine. We're not machines. We need to understand the constraint view of nature. Because if we don't understand it, if we don't respect nature, nature is not going to respect us. And we're going to pay a price in terms of our productivity, our creativity, as well as our happiness, the ultimate currency. I want to show you a quick excerpt by my favorite, Ellen DeGeneres. And this is the end of her show on procrastination, which I highly, highly recommend. You can find it in any of the video stores around here. So here she is, the end of the show, after she has talked about procrastination for over an hour. The one and only.
We're doing all these things to squeeze things together so we can save time. And I don't know about you, but I don't have any more time. I have less time. But let's just say we could save up a whole chunk of time and set it aside. You know what we do with it? Nothing. Nothing at all. Isn't that the point, to be able to do nothing at all? But we're not guaranteed that later on chunk of time. All we have is here and now. And that's why procrastination feels so right. Procrastination is not the problem. It is the solution. It is the universe's way of saying, stop, slow down, you move too fast. Listen to the music. Whoa, whoa, listen to the music. What I'm trying to say is, if you leave here tonight and you don't remember anything else that I said, leave here and remember this. Procrastinate now. Don't put it off.
Okay. Out of everything that I teach, this lecture, this topic is the most personally meaningful to me. Because in many ways, my shift, my journey from perfectionism, and it's an ongoing journey, a journey that it goes on right now as we speak. My journey from perfectionism to the pursuit of excellence is most intimately linked with my journey toward becoming happier. So I want to share with you some personal things that I've been through. Some of them are in my book, but I want to expand the story beyond squash. So I started playing squash at the age of 11, which was after giving up an illustrious, passionate career as a basketball star. It was about that time when I realized that NBA was not going to happen for me. I started playing squash and almost immediately started playing every day. My days revolved, my life at that time revolved around squash. I would wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning and go for a run. I would come home, have my food, go to school. Right after school, it was next to the squash, not far from the squash courts. I would go to the squash courts, play with my coach, work out in the gym, play games, and then late afternoon I would go home, do my homework, and then go to sleep. For years, this was my pattern. It was difficult, it was tough, especially the interval training workouts with my coach. However, it was nothing. The toughness was nothing compared to the emotional difficulties at the time. I was constantly, with almost no recovery, no reprieve, I was constantly stressed. There was always a knot that I felt in my stomach. It was real, as if there was a ball here. The knot was especially pronounced, especially difficult after a poor performance in practice, when it didn't match to the standards that I had for myself. And it almost never matched. The knot was at its severest during tournaments. Very often I would get to a final of an important tournament and choke and lose the final, even at times when I was supposed to win, on paper at least. That knot didn't go away. When it went away, it was only for very short periods of time. But I knew that that knot would go away. And I was sustained by the belief, by the vision, by my personal mission at the time of winning the Israeli national championships. I said to myself, if I win this, then I'll be happy. Then I will be calm. And it's all going to be worth it. Why? Because no pain, no gain. In 1986, I reached the final of the Israeli national championships. And I lost. I was devastated. I was devastated even though I was the youngest player to ever reach the final, even though I had beaten players higher than me on the rankings. I was devastated for months. But still, I went on. No pain, no gain. And I continued to train and work hard. In 1987, I met the same player in the final, and this time I won. I was ecstatic, joyous, happier than I'd ever remembered myself being. And at that moment I said to myself, it all paid off. It was all worth it. Because now I was ready to be happy. I went out with my friends and family, and we celebrated. And about 4 hours later, after the celebrations, I went back home. I went back home and wanted, before going to sleep, just for one last time, savor, enjoy that feeling of joy, of ecstasy, of pure bliss that I'd earned. And I sat down on my bed, and then suddenly, without any warning, the exact same feeling, the exact same emotion, the exact same knot returned. And I started to cry. Not the same tears of joy that I cried 4 hours earlier, but tears of pain and helplessness. The knot returned, and I thought, well, maybe it's the low following a high. And I hoped that it would go away, but it didn't go away. And a few weeks later, I realized what it was, and this time I really nailed it. I understood. I would have to be the world champion to really be happy. I graduated from high school. I had 2 years before I had to enlist in the military, and I took off to England. In England, I lived in London and joined Stripes, which was a squash club in Ealing Broadway, where Shahar, world champion at the time, used to train. Because I said, this is my goal, this is my objective. And I would come in every single day and watch Shahar and imitate him. Whatever he did, I would do. So he ran 7 miles each morning. I would run 7 miles each morning. He would go to the court, work out in the gym. I did exactly what he did. He played numerous games with other players. I would play numerous games with other players. And he had training partners. And I wasn't good enough at that time to be his training partner, so I would just hang out there. And once in a while, when there was no one else around, he would say, come, Tal, let's play a little bit. And we would play. And I went back to the drawing board after each game with him, and I would play harder and train harder. Just what he did, because to be like him, to be the world champion, I would have to train like him. And I trained harder and harder. And I got better and better. And after about 6 months, I became good enough to be one of his training partners. And after a year, I became his regular training partners, and I would travel with him around the world. Wherever he would play tournaments, we would train before. However, injuries began to creep in. Why? Because Shahar had built up from literally the age of 3. He had built up his stamina, his fitness. And for me, it was all or nothing.